watching Javon Kinlaw chase Trey Sermon today was a remarkable thing to watch. He is picking him up and putting him down. I mean, his knees get up very high for a guy his size. His feet come high off the ground when he runs for a guy his size. Charles Omenihu was another guy that just stands out. And I said to you today, I'm like, what's the deal? Here's this guy. He's only 24 years old. He went to Texas. He was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year one year. How did he end up as a 5th-round pick? Because watching the last couple of days, my thought was if the Niners had drafted Charles Omenihu, I think he'd have a little more hype than he has right now when you just look at his physicality and when you think about who he's going to play with and who he's going to play for. And then when you watch them practice, there he is lined up opposite of Bosa sometimes. Today he lined up against Trent Williams several times. On the run plays, he wasn't going anywhere. But once he bent around Trent, and I don't know if I would call it a win, but I thought it was more a win for him. He got his hand on Nate Sudfeld's back as Sudfeld was throwing the ball. The last play of the practice before the horn blew, Trey Lance stepped up in the pocket. It was Omenihu against Trent Williams. Not really Trent's fault because the quarterback stepped up right next to him. But Omenihu was right there to, as much as he's allowed to, put an arm on Trey Lance. Like, just watching what reps he gets, it's clear that Chris Kasarik thinks he's a really good player.
Well, I probably sat down and watched 20 minutes of the Raider Jag Hall of Fame game, and all of a sudden the guy makes a play, and Tarico's like, "What up? Good backside pursuit by Arden Key."
There you go.
And he's a good example of Arden Key looked the part. Long from LSU, underachiever. And you asked
what round?
Me, Arden was the 3rd round, but I do think a lot of people at the time thought like that might be a stretch to pick him on the 2nd day. And I would say this, that it felt like Arden Key's career was headed down the wrong way, and he was going to be out of the league. And Kasarik now made him like that, kind of catalyst for the Niners. Does that get him an extra 3 or 4 years? Now he only signed a 1-year deal, so it's not like he had a bunch of
$4 million.
Yeah, but does he just play several more years and become a backup pass rusher? And you said, like, how does a guy like that from Texas, because he is just, as scouts would say, best looking guy on the hoof, like they're just walking out the bus. I would say Kinlaw and Armstead by far, and Trent. I mean, those are some of the better looking players in the NFL. Omenihu is not like that. He's thinner, but just in terms of, he's got kind of like Alden-y vibes, just in terms of length. Like he just really stands out from being tall. And the Niners, beside Armstead and Kinlaw, who are enormous, they've always had a lot of short D tackles. I mean, the dude the Broncos just signed for $30 million, like they have no problem. And this is the Jim Washburn, Kasarik, their way of thinking. They like penetrating guys. So they can lip Mo Hurst, who got hurt earlier in camp. They like those like 6 foot, 6'1", 300-pound like athletes, that can fucking pass rush. Because let's face it, the Niners, their linebackers make the tackles. Their D-line pass rushes. That's what those guys are doing. Now, that's where I think they ideally want Kinlaw to really come through, right? He's more of a hybrid. Armstead kind of too, but the word I texted a couple college directors, I'm like, how's a guy like this fall to the 5th round? And they're like, character stuff, but nothing bad. Well, we heard the same thing with Drake Jackson. Yeah. And they said the biggest thing was like major, major underachiever. And to me, that's when I think Arden Key's big thing, major, major underachiever. Because when you see an Arden Key or when you see this guy, you go, God, this guy looks better than all these guys that the Niners have had for the last 3 years on their D-line.
Well, John, the other thing, Drake Jackson comes from USC, underachieving program. Texas, underachieving program is where Charles Omenihu came from.
And we talked about this the other day, like, what a Niner guy told me is Hufanga was in the shitstorm too. And he's one of the rare guys over the years rose above it. No win-loss, 4-win season, 8-win season, everyone to a man. Hufanga, the guy. We love him. We would. He could have played for Pete's teams. And a lot of the other people, because you just like start blaming people for losing. Coaches never want to be like, yeah, it's my fault I can't scheme. It's like, Drake Jackson, you won't listen to anybody. I don't know. That's what they said, but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
that's what gets said.
That's not
in
what I
losing
just heard.
programs.
Immature was what I heard about Drake, not
Yeah,
like coming out of USC.
But that type stuff when you're losing, like, it's not
Yeah.
like, Charles Omenihu, he's, if we had 11 of him, like, it's like, he just freelances. He does his own thing. It's easy. Those type things get said, and then you can find value. The value is always had. Now, you miss a lot too, but I don't think Kyle Shanahan would swing at underachievers if they didn't have Kasarik. Like, he's not into those type players. But they have consistently now taken swings with Kasarik because he turns them from underachievers into achievers.
Well, if there was an expansion coach draft and Kyle Shanahan could only protect one coach on his staff, which coach would he protect? I would tell him to protect Kasarik.
Because he's going to lose D'Amico no matter what.
Yeah, because you're going to lose D'Amico no matter what, and it doesn't seem like Kasarik's about to leave to become like. It feels like as long as Kyle pays Kasarik and lets him do his thing, I don't know. I would love to ask Chris, talk to him, Chris, what? Like, I was thinking about this driving down the other day. If I was Shanahan, wouldn't you want to sit down with Chris Kasarik and just say, Chris, what is it that you want out of your coaching career? Because I want to make sure you get it here because I do not want to lose you. Right.
Yeah. To me, like, you could sign him to like a 4-year, $12 million contract, make him like the highest paid position coach in the league.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah. Basically, I pay you like what's a high paid coordinator in the NFL make, a defensive coordinator? $2.5, $3, $4 million. We pay you something like that to be our defensive line coach and a long-term extension fully guaranteed.
You just operate like the SEC. Like, I'm just going to pay you so much that you don't want to do anything. Like, if this is what you're happy doing, you don't feel obligated to go be a defensive coordinator because somebody will pay you more money.
Well, I would be. There are other elite defensive line coaches too in the league. I would be shocked if he's not making. If I had to take an educated guess, $2 million right now. Like, he's highly compensated.
Well, what's he worth to them?
Well, when you factor in that you keep underachievers, yeah.
It's an expensive position that he coaches. So if he can help you get value at that position, then he saves you money.
$8 million.
Real money that really matters. Salary cap money.
Yeah, $8 million.
Yeah, I mean, like, if Charles Omenihu, because, like, here's the thing with them. A bunch of their guys are free agents on the defensive line. Actually, a bunch of their guys on defense, like the two Greenlaw and Alshire, and then Bosa's under contract. Kinlaw's under contract. Obviously, Drake Jackson's under contract.
Armstead's under contract. Jimmy Ward's under contract. Hufunga's under contract. Their corners are. Mosley might be a free agent. I think Mosley is because he was an RFA this year. So the linebackers, Mosley, guys like Omenihu. I imagine some of the D tackles.
Ebicam. I got to check I think Ebicam is. Hyder's here for 1 year, right? Givens.
To me, that's where his value. Replace all those guys. I got to worry about the two linebackers because you probably let Mosley go and hopefully Ambry, whoever steps into that, right? And that's part of football. I think the linebacker thing, you got to, at minimum, one of those guys getting kept.